everyone, and welcome to the news today for 26th November. We're going to discuss the key events which have happened today. First, I'll talk to you about the headlines. So these are the main news which we have here. First one is sovereign AI on the rise as nations move to reduce dependence on global superpowers. So we are going to understand what is sovereign AI. Then you have digital sequence information. It is one of the main issues under the Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources. So this is another idea on genetic resources, which we'll talk about. After that, you have Australia to become the first country to ban social media for children under 16 years. Then we have emerging use of artificial intelligence is fueling infringement of personality rights. So how AI can do that? Let's see. Then Supreme Court has reprimands government over non-compliance with CCTV directive in police stations. So Supreme Court had asked that there should be CCTVs in police stations. After that, we'll talk about some quick updates, some new terms or some old but very relevant terms which you should be familiar with. So we'll talk about the Constitution Day. Then there is an exercise in news, which is Surya Kiran. After that, a military operation, Operation Pavan. Then mule accounts. We talk about ozone. After that, Nai Chetna 4.0. Then you have this on quote. And the personality in news for today is Dr. Verghese Kurien. So let's talk about all of these one by one. Starting with this first one. So sovereign AI on the rise as nations move to reduce dependence on global superpowers. See, artificial intelligence is a growing field, and there are two countries which are superpowers in this area. One is USA, the second one is China. So they are developing a lot of artificial intelligence-based technologies, and all the countries, all the parts of the world which are using it, they're getting it from them. But now there's this concept that countries must have their own sovereign AI, which they control. And that is what we'll discuss here. So what exactly is this sovereign AI? It is the nation's capacity to produce artificial intelligence using its own infrastructure, its own data, its own workflows. So you develop your own artificial intelligence in your own country. That would be called the sovereign AI. Now, if you do this, if this sovereign AI is developed, or like your headline said, that sovereign AI is being emphasized, what would be the benefit of that? So first of all, of course, economic advantage. You buy something from outside and you make something on your own. Of course, there will be a price advantage to that. Then you have strategic autonomy. You control the whole thing. You can decide how you're going to use it. And for some areas, this strategic autonomy is so important. Like you want to use artificial intelligence in your military development, right? That's something you would want to keep secret. So a sovereign AI will be the way to go there. After that, data sovereignty. If you use artificial intelligence system, like let's say we're using ChatGPT, it's a US-based system. So all the data which we are searching or everything which we are creating, that is with them. That's in the US. So if you have your own AI, so that information, that data, that stays in India. You control it, you can keep it secure, right? And it can also be culturally used, like there will be cultural preservation. Let's say you're talking about data on health indicators. So your system, your artificial intelligence system will have data of Indians. So it will be having a better understanding on the kind of diseases, kind of sickness, which Indian population has because it has Indian data. It can be trained for different Indian languages. We have so many different Indian languages. So if you have your own sovereign AI, let's say India has it, so that cultural aspect of different languages, different ways, music, all of that can be really preserved. But of course, there are challenges. if you want to talk about technology development, and we're talking about creating it, but we are still not being able to do that because there are, of course, a number of challenges. First of all, there is foreign dependency. A lot of technology, a lot of aspects of technology are still foreign. You need to get in from them. There is also this aspect of chips, like particularly the semiconductor in material, the semiconductor chips which are there. We are importing most of them, and for all electronic gadgets, that's something which you need. So parts of it we are still going to need from other countries. Then, of course, expenses, funding issue for everything, for every step, right from buying technology to creating that to having a workforce, that whole thing will be difficult. And in such a field, you need very skilled workforce. So if your workforce is not very well skilled, okay, they'll not be able to work here. And if you want a skilled workforce, if you want a highly professional group of people to come and work for you, you'll have to pay them well. Again, bringing it back to the issue of money, to bringing it back to the issue of funding. So these challenges are there, but we are definitely trying. Like India is trying to have its sovereign AI, and India's sovereign AI is going to be called Bharat Gen. So this Bharat Gen is India's first sovereign. It's going to be multilingual. The language aspect, I told you, it's very important for India. And multimodal. You can use it in different modes. It can be connected to do different kinds of tasks. So this is developed by the Department of Science and Technology. So there's a Ministry of Science and Technology. Under that, you have a Department of Science and Technology. And there is a National Mission on Interdisciplinary Cyber Physical Systems. Okay, so this is a recent thing which has happened. So in 2025, this whole thing has come together. Then the goal here is that they want to create a complete AI stack. That means integrated system. An AI stack will be, it'll have everything. It'll have text, it'll have speech, it'll have documentation, and it will be covering all 22 Indian languages, which are mentioned by our constitution, and it will be capable for use in different AI. So we're creating something which will be used in healthcare also, education, agriculture, and overall digital inclusion. So that's the goal, and work is being done on this. There are a few applications which we already have, which are indigenous, which we have made on our own. One is used in agriculture, second is used for different sellers. So first is Krishi Sathi. So this is a voice-enabled WhatsApp advisory for farmers. Okay, so WhatsApp is very popular, but in that we've integrated this. It's going to be a voice-enabled advisory tool for farmers. And you have eVicar AI. This generates product description from a single image. You show it an image and it shows a product description. So for small sellers, like somebody wants to sell their goods on an e-commerce site, let's say on Amazon. So you have to write a product description. So you give the product image, it'll write that description for you. So this is another such application. These examples can be very helpful when you specifically write mains answer. And you have to talk about, okay, how this is being done. So such small bits also, if you can remember, you can really incorporate them in your answers. Going forward, we have the digital sequence information is one of the main issues under the Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources. So this is going to need a little bit of your attention because there are two ideas here which we have to talk about. First is the digital sequence, and then why it is a problem with the Treaty of Plant Genetic Resources. Okay, let's talk about the key issue. Why we are discussing this, why is this in news? So you have the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the right to food. So basically, UN will, time and again appoint an expert for a particular issue. So that's what this is. So this is on right to food. And what it is saying is, that's the idea, that there is a digital sequence information which could fundamentally undermine the mandate of the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and agriculture. So we'll talk about this treaty, we'll talk about what a digital sequence information is, and then you'll be able to understand that how this is a problem. Let's talk about the treaty first. Okay, so this treaty basically means that this is an agreement of different countries. So this is under the Food and Agricultural Organization. This is the one who brought in this agreement. Okay, the aim of this is that there should be conservation and sustainable use of all plant genetic resources for food and agriculture, and fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising out of their use. Okay, so basically it's talking about how you should conserve genetic resources, genetic information, and whatever benefit you can extract, that should be shared equitably. This is a very important premise in the use of genetic resources, that benefits should be shared equally. And for any such treaty agreement, whenever the discussion is there, we also always have to look at it from the India's perspective. So India is a part of this treaty. Okay, let's go to DSI, where this idea of what exactly or how genetic resource is going to be working, we'll understand that. Okay. So digital sequence information. Digital, you understand that we are storing something digitally, okay? It's on a platform, and this is a sequence information. So what exactly is a sequence information? Now, there's no standard definition of this digital sequence information. That's one big ambiguity in this idea. But under the Convention on Biological Diversity. So 1992, we had this Convention on Biological Diversity. It's also called CBD. So in this term was given, okay? This idea of digital sequence information, or DSI. Now, what it talks about, or what it refers to, is that this is the digital storage of genetic data derived from DNA, RNA, proteins, or their biological sequences. See, the basic premise of genetic material you must have. You'll find it's being used at a number of places in your current affairs. So every organism, like here we are talking about plants, all the plants have a unique set of genetic material. Their DNA is different. Their properties are different. Like there might be a plant which will be more suitable for drier conditions. There might be a plant which will need a lot of water. There might be a plant which will grow very tall, a plant which will stay very short, right? So all these variations in their properties are decided by their genetic material. Now that genetic material can be in the form of their DNA, some proteins, or some other kind of sequence which you have. Now you want to study that and record it digitally. When you record that digitally, you store that information that, okay, this is the gene, this is the DNA, this is what it does, and you have that saved. That would be digital sequence information. Okay, and there is a dedicated fund for it. So you have the Cali fund. This is Cali is in California. So Cali fund for DSI. So this is a global benefit sharing mechanism which was created under CBD. So Convention on Biological Diversity. It's Conference of Parties number 16. It's 16th conference when that happened. So in that, they created a special fund for DSI, which was to ensure that the profits from the use of DSI are shared fairly, supporting biodiversity conservation, capacity building, and indigenous communities. Again, that same idea of benefit sharing. Now, how benefit sharing will come in? Like let's say climate change is happening, and let's say India is experiencing conditions of desertification. So in that, I want to grow crops which are more tolerant to drier conditions. So if I have this digital information, see, because this is online, this will be available to everybody. That's the global concept here in DSI, that globally that data sharing can happen. So I can get data as to what kind of plants or what kind of genes or what kind of genetic material helps plants survive in drier conditions. And I can incorporate them into the plants or the existing varieties which I have. Now I can get a patent on it. Okay, I will, if I've done this research creating that special product, I'll get a patent and I will start selling that product as a drier area friendly product or as a drier area friendly plant. Okay, but the significance of doing this can extend beyond this. We can talk about food and nutritional security. If we understand the genetic properties, the genetic resources, we can go encourage research towards food and nutritional security. Then preservation of agro biodiversity. If we are storing information of all the different types of plants suitable for agriculture, we are preserving that biodiversity. We'll always have that information. That plant will never be lost because we know what it is made up of, and that can always be created. Okay, so we are saving the biodiversity here for agriculture. And then, of course, global scientific cooperation, because it's online, because it's available to everybody. Different countries or scientists from different communities, they can come together, participate, and work in cooperation. But there are challenges. That was the whole point, that it was said that this DSI is going to undermine your treaty. Okay, the treaty which talks about sharing of benefits, protecting communities. Now, that might not exactly happen, or there are problems in that happening because of some challenges. First is, of course, unclear definition. What exactly comes under this, that's not very clear, so that in itself is a problem. Then, if something is digitally stored, it can be digitally stolen also. It becomes slightly easier to do that. So, there will be biopiracy. Okay, biopiracy means you use somebody else's genetic resources without their information, right? Like, let's say there's a plant variety in India and somebody, an MNC in America, gets that sequenced information of its genetic material, gets a patent on it, starts selling it. So this is biopiracy. And this, because of this, there is a possibility of weakening farmer control. So let's say whatever indigenous variety farmers were growing that, now they cannot grow that or sell their product globally because the patent somebody else has. And if it's digital and people are getting ownership of that digital data, then the farmer's control, the farmer who had to physically grow and then sell his seeds maybe, that control is going to be weakened. And that's why this whole idea, it's like a two-edged sword. They're also talking about that if this happens, that means food security will be less. It will be against that treaty which is talking about sustainable use and protection of farmers. So that's the idea. You should know about the concept of digital sequencing as such, as an idea. That's the key thing which you take away from this article. The next one. Australia to become the first country to ban social media for children under 16 years. Okay. So this move of Australia has been in news for quite some time, and now it's finally going to be applied from 10th of December. This will be valid. Now, why they don't want their youngsters to use this, or children under 16 years old to use this, is because there are concerns. And the concerns are, of course, mental health, because you are exposed to a lot of information which might not be very suitable for you. So that can create issues of anxiety, issues of depression. Then there are issues of physical health. If you're glued to your screens, which I think is so commonly happening now with all of us, also that there are challenges of physical health. You're becoming very, very sedentary. You are in that room, you don't need to go out or play. So that's a problem for children specifically, because you really want them to do some physical activity. It's their growing period. Then social development. It kind of hinders your ability for developing social skills, because you are never actually facing somebody, or you're never talking one-on-one. You don't know how to monitor your emotions. You don't know how to have those interactions. So that development is also weakened. And of course, there are issues of online safety. There can be issues of, cyberbullying, frauds are there. So many children are facing such kind of an issue. So because of that, the government of Australia considered that, yes, we are not going to allow this to be done. And they have imposed some very hefty fines also for all those social media players like Instagram, Facebook, and everything. So if they said that whatever existing profiles are there for children below 16 years, they have to be removed. Okay. Now, there's one concept which talks about the potential negative impacts of the ban. That you're giving it ban with a good intention, but there is a possibility that there can be some negative things also which will come out of this. First is it will limit the development of digital skills. As children are working online, they're also learning a lot of their digital skills. Like there is a creative expression which is associated with it. There's collaborative learning. Some of those are, learning-based things or education or new ideas which they are being exposed to. Interest-based networking is there. Like you can have a kind of different groups or communities based on some common interest of the child. So that might get limited with this. And another issue which is possible is that it might push children to unsafe places on the internet. So if they can't like legally go on a website, maybe they can go on the dark web. So dark web is basically some form of internet browsing which is not trackable, browsers which are not commonly used, and there's a lot of anonymity which is there here. So that might be a little bit more unsafe for the children. So scholars have expressed concerns on this also. And there are also some very interesting suggestions which talk about alternatives. That, okay, if it's not going to be an absolute ban, then what else can be done? First is restricted usage. That, you can have restricted usage in terms of allowing educational and creative learning only. And this can be done through some children-focused platforms. Like you have Instagram teen accounts, which have built-in protection, like what kind of content they'll be able to see or what will be eliminated from that. So that's one logical alternative. And then in India, in Kerala, you have a very special digital de-addiction center, which they've come up with. Okay, so this is a best practice which can also be applied, that if you feel you're digitally addicted or if your teenager is digitally addicted, so they can be sent to these digital de-addiction centers, which the government of Kerala, where they are providing free counseling for this. Okay, whenever you think about any issue, it's a good idea to have like a nuanced, balanced opinion on both sides. Positive, negative, and of course, the ultimate solutions. We can move on to the next article, which is emerging use of artificial intelligence is fueling infringement of personality rights. So we're going to understand what is personality rights. This is in line with recently Abhishek Bachchan, Aishwarya Rai, and before that a number of other creative personalities. They have filed with the court to protect their personality rights. Okay, so let's understand what exactly are these personality rights. So our constitution or a legal system is not specifying this term anywhere, okay, as what personality rights are, but through a number of different laws and provisions of intellectual property and other such laws, it can be derived. So this says it encompasses an individual's exclusive control over commercial use of their identity, names, images, voices, behavior, and unique attributes of their persona. Okay, so if it's a singer, it can be his voice, right? If it's an actor, it can be everything in his personality overall. Like Anil Kapoor has actually filed a case where, because a lot of people would be, mimicking these stars. So there's a catchphrase also, which is jackass. I'm sure you know about that. So all of that, he's got it copyright, and any infringement of that, which somebody is doing commercially, that is not allowed because he's won that case. So the legal status here comes from the Article 21, which is right to privacy. And then you have the Information Technology Act of 2000 and the 2004 IT special guidelines, intermediary guidelines, which addresses impersonation and deepfakes. So deepfake is an artificial intelligence technologies application where you can really mimic an image of a person, a video of a person, or voice can be copied through deep learning. Right? So you can have one person's head on another person's body, and that can be very finely done. Like you had shallow fakes earlier, which would also do such things, trick photography. But here, with deep learning, those new things, new images, they are very, very perfect. And it's difficult to distinguish. That's where the issue is. Then you have a Copyrights Act, then the Trademarks Act. So, like, singers can get their copyright of the music which they are creating, like their song. So whenever my song is played, I have to be compensated for that. You can't do it. Or my voice itself, I can trademark that, okay, this is my voice. I get to use it. You will not be allowed to mimic it or copy it in any way. Now, artificial intelligence and these personality rights. So first of all, there are social concerns. Like there will be misinformation which can be propagated through this. There can be issues of extortion, and it can erode public trust. Like you can have a celebrity, let's say you can have a politician talking about things which might not be his views, which might erode public trust. And as such, when there's a lot of deep fakes and such artificial intelligence modulated material around, there is also this discontent in the people, or lack of trust, where they don't know what they're supposed to believe, what they're not supposed to believe. Then you have the issue of commodification of human identity. In this kind of a system, somebody's voice is now a commodity. Somebody's, gestures, personality, smile, all of that can become a commodity for use, which is not something which you can ethically vouch for. Then you have data misuse. Now, how these systems are going to learn. Like if you want to, get Barack Obama sing a Punjabi song, so how you do that is you have to take a lot of his speeches, take a lot of his data, where the AI system will study his mouth movements, and it will develop all of that in a chain, deep learning, and through that it can fabricate like that song lyrics kind of thing. Now, this would mean that you're using a lot of that data of this person. Like if a celebrity's data has to be misused, that means you have to go into his personal accounts, into his social media accounts to get information, a lot of which is without authorization. Then liabilities issues. There are issues of liability, that who is going to be held accountable. Will it be the creators, the person who's made this, the distributors of deepfakes, and how you do that, how you monitor that, that part is still tricky. So that's why this issue is highlighted here, and this issue has been discussed. Okay, so AI, along with its advantages, of course, comes with its challenges, a lot of which we are currently not prepared with. Coming to the next one, this is Supreme Court reprimands government over non-compliance with CCTV directive in police stations. So the Supreme Court here is talking about custodial torture. The issue is this, that earlier, the Supreme Court had given directives in the Paramveer Singh Saini versus Baljit Singh case 2020. And the directive were, so more than the case here, the directive is important, that you should install CCTVs in the premises of law enforcement agencies, like NIA, CBI, different police stations, just to make sure you are preventing custodial torture. Okay. See, these agencies, when they come or they have somebody in custody, there might be different methods which they are using for examining the person, And sometimes it's reported that that is not lawful exactly. There's custodial torture, and a lot of times people also die in custody. There have been a number of cases in like in 2023, 1754 custodial deaths have happened. This has been reported. So this is what is a very serious thing, and Supreme Court says that you cannot take this lightly. The law enforcement agencies cannot be held responsible for actually breaking the law in this way, to the extreme end where people are dying. So because of that, they said that we should be having some vigilance. So CCTV cameras were suggested, but they've not been installed. So here they're talking about it again, that it has to be done. Under this judgment, the court mandated that there will also be constitution of oversight committees at the state and district level. So you already have these oversight committees which oversee all these things at the central level, but now the court is saying it should be at the district and state level also. Now, Constitution already has some existing safeguards. Of course, again, this term is not custodial torture, is not dedicatedly mentioned, but there are a number of your rights and provisions which will cover this. First is, of course, Article 14, right to equality before law. Then Article 20, subsection 3, protection against self-incrimination. Then Article 21, right to life. After that, you have the National Human Rights Commission of India. So that gave like a detailed guidelines on custodial deaths. Okay, so this was in 1993. So this issue has been there since then. And after that, different Supreme Court judgments have been there. Okay, giving different aspects that, okay, this should be done, this has to be done. I'll just read this out for you. So you first have D.K. Basu versus State of West Bengal. This provided specific guidelines for safeguarding detainees and the procedure of arrest. What's the right way to arrest? What steps should be followed? Then you have Prakash Singh versus Union of India. This ordered setting up of police complaints authority in each state, dedicated to look at complaints for the rank of SP or above that rank whenever custodial death has happened. Then you have Shafi Mohammed versus State of Himachal Pradesh. This directed the Home Affairs Ministry to set up a central oversight body, which was then also done. It is already done. This is just to like give you a sense of how developments have taken place. You don't really need to remember all these specific judgments. The issue, the theme, the constitutional idea, and the latest development, that's something you would be required to know. With this, we can go to our personality in news. So very famous personality. I'm sure you've seen him. This is Dr. Verghese Kurien. He was born in Kerala, and he's the architect of India's White Revolution, or as it is called, Operation Flood. On his birthday, which is today, you also have the National Milk Day. India became the largest producer of milk in the world under his reign. So you have the experience of Amul. So there are two companies, I'm sure you've heard their names. So you have Amul, and you also have one oil seeds company, which is Dhara, right? Dhara Oils. So both of them, he's been instrumental in the growth and setup and development of all the institutions around both of these. Then the quick updates, the terms, the specific events which we are going to talk about. First is Constitution Day. So today, that is 26th of November, is our Constitution Day, which is the day when the Constitution was completed, and that was in 26th November 1949. When we celebrate our Republic Day, that's 26th January 1950. So basically, see, Constitution was complete, adopted on this day. But this date was also significant because before independence, this was considered to be the Independence Day. So this was celebrated for many years. So just to give importance to this special day, we took this date, and now a few years ago we recognized that okay, this date is also important, so this is now the Constitution Day. Then you have a military exercise, a joint military exercise. It's recently being conducted in Uttarakhand, and this is between the Indian Army and the Nepal Army. The special thing which you have to remember about this exercise, so this is Surya Kiran. So Surya Kiran is for joint training on sub-conventional operations. See, one is the normal military warfare, okay? You come together and you fight. But there are challenges which all these countries are facing, which are sub-conventional warfares, like terrorism, for example. So this exercise is dedicated towards those. Counter-terrorism, jungle warfare or guerrilla warfare, mountain warfare. So Nepal also has that whole extent. It's also a Himalayan country, so these things could help with joint training. Then humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. Okay, so please remember this special thing, that this is sub-conventional operation, sub-conventional warfare, and remember this term also. Then you have Operation Pavan. So this was launched in 1987. So you had the Indian peacekeeping force in the after the Indo-Sri Lanka Accord. They were deployed, and the purpose was to disarm militant groups, particularly the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam or LTTE in Sri Lanka. So there were hundreds of soldiers who got injured, who lost their lives in this. But why this has recently come in news, why this has been highlighted is because on the anniversary to commemorate Operation Pavan, for the first time the Chief of Army Staff has visited that site. It's in the National War Memorial. So that is kind of highlighted this, because he went to pay homage. And this has happened for the first time. Earlier, the army chief has never visited this. Okay, so concept, mule accounts. So these are bank accounts used by criminals for laundering illicit funds with or without the knowledge of account holder. So somebody wants to do some kind of laundering with the money, but they're not going to do it through their own account, through their own identity, but through somebody else's account, somebody else's name, somebody else's it's going to be put in somebody else's account. It can be with or without their knowledge. Okay, the person whose account it is, that person may or may not know it. So when that kind of an account is there, that is the mule account. And they mask the origin of illegally obtained money. And if it's not in your name, the actual source, it becomes very difficult for the authorities to trace this. If the money is in these mule accounts, it becomes difficult to trace. That's the objective of these mule accounts. And the reason this is in news is because these mule accounts, these are on a rise. There are more and more such accounts eliciting that there is a lot of illegal activity which is happening. Okay. Ozone, very important theme in climate change. You must study about this in detail. So there is an ozone layer around the Earth, in the atmosphere, in the stratosphere, between 15 to 35 kilometers above the Earth's surface. So there is this placement of ozone. Okay, and the purpose of this ozone is to protect us against harmful ultraviolet radiations. But this ozone is becoming damaged. We are developing what we call ozone holes. Okay? And depletion, how this happens is when you have some special human-made products which contain chlorine and bromine, they will react with ozone, and that will lead to depleting of that ozone layer. There will be gaps, there will be holes. That means if there are holes, UV radiations will come to the Earth's surface, and they are going to do their damage. Damage would be like in terms of skin diseases, skin cancers, because UV radiations are harmful for us. The reason it's in news here is because recent data suggests that there was earlier a very big hole over Antarctica, and now that has become slightly smaller. And there are hopes that maybe it can heal at some point. Then you have this government campaign, Nai Chetna 4.0. It's a month-long campaign by the Ministry of Rural Development under Deen Dayal Antodaya Yojana, or National Rural Livelihood Mission. Very important schemes, please look them up. What is the aim? Now, this is a specific gender-based dedicated campaign. So to strengthen community action against gender-based violence and promote women's safety, dignity, and economic empowerment. Okay, so this is dedicated for women in a sense, okay, gender-based violence, empowerment, dignity, safety, and for that this Nai Chetna campaign is going to be run. The last topic of the day, your on quote. So this is basically an online quote, which Kerala started 1 year ago. So it's been 1 year since we have this on quote or online quote. It functions entirely online, allowing e-filling and digital document verification, SMS, email summons, virtual hearings, real-time updates for lawyers and litigants. So this now, after 1 year, we have sufficient data to see how this has worked. And this is working much faster than your conventional court. Because what's happening is you have to file a complaint online, right? So you can do it at any point of time. There is no dedicated areas. Okay, the court is running for this much time, this duration of time. And once it is done, summons are also given very quickly, because summons are going to be issued online. Like you get an SMS, you get an email. That's how the summon works. So because of that, it can work a little bit more efficiently and quickly. And this has very, very promising hopes as more of this can be tried. So first one was tried in Kerala. Okay. Now that I have explained all the topics to you, please go read the news today. The document is available to you. Go through it. You'll be able to understand what we have discussed here. And if for any topic you feel there is any problem, so for that you also have the digital current affairs. Okay, so you can go through this digital current affairs. You can get the details of the topic. It can help you connect with different topics. And along with that, don't forget to go through the MCQs. You have these MCQs available. Once you've read your news today, please solve those MCQs. That'll be like your direct practice each and every day as you go through this exercise of daily current affairs. On that note, I wish you all the best. Thank you.